This is Art with Mrs. Rogers. This is a grading rubric for this lesson. Graded on listening and following directions. This is a horizontal composition. Each one of these is worth 20 points. 1 for composition is horizontal because there's predominantly horizontal lines in this composition that will express calmness and tranquility. Number 2, correct size and placement. This is based on proportions of a horse and unit of measurement which artists apply to help them to see drawing an object correctly. Number 3, neatness, line quality. If you really care about an object, you're going to take your time, slow your eye and hand down, and your lines will vary in quality and thickness and in pressure. Number 4, shows empathy. Empathy is a major key ingredient in art. An artist always pretends that their tool is on the surface of their object, whether you're just drawing or shading. And 5, value scales. There are 5 ways that light affects an object. Any object that receives light will be affected in these 5 ways. Light hitting it at a 90-degree angle creates a highlight. Around the highlight is a half-tone, half shade darker than the highlight. And as the object is turning away from the light source, it creates a core shadow, which has a soft edge because some light is able to seep down and some is not. And then we have reflected light bouncing off of other objects, creating a lighter value. And the reflected light will never be as light as the highlight, but it will be lighter than the core shadow. And then the last one, the cast shadow. That has a hard edge, and that's your darkest value. So I'm going to turn this over, and I'm going to show you how to look at a horse and help you to see by applying proportions and using what's called a unit of measurement. I discovered from owning my own horse that his ear is as long as from my middle finger to my palm. So whatever size I draw his ear, these proportions will follow. One hand down, 1 ear length down goes to his eye. From one eye to the other is an ear length. From his ear to his nose, end of his nose, is 3 ear lengths. From his ear, base of his ear, to his jaw is 2. From the base of his ear to the base of his neck is 4.5 ear lengths. And from his chest going out, there are 1 ear length going out and then going in on his chest. And his leg is about 5.5 ear lengths long. So knowing those proportions helps you to better see it. And here's a picture of my horse, Homer. And from the base of their nose, the tip of their nose to the base of their neck, that distance is 2 times of that will be the length of a horse. From the top of their ear to the base of their neck is the same distance to the bottom of the ground, the end of their feet. So the first thing I'm going to start with, the unit of measurement, which is going to be his ear. And there are the basic shapes of a horse are the ear is a triangle, right? The head is a triangle, the neck is a triangle, the body is a rectangle, and the legs are triangles. Those are the basic shapes that help you to better see as well. So I'm going to now I can take my pencil, whatever size I draw his ear, and I can measure down 1 ear length down hits his eye. So make a dot, take your pencil away from that dot, and focus on that dot while you go around it. We'll put in detail of shapes later on. So I told you from his base of his ear to his end of his nose is 3 ear lengths. So I measure the ear. There's one eye, 1 ear length, 2, and 3. Now, from the base of his ear to his nose, I visualize a straight line. By making beginning and end dots, it helps you to be focused, it helps you to slow your eye and hand down, and to break it into smaller steps. When we break things into smaller steps, we have a higher percentage of succeeding. So I ask myself, from this dot to this dot, how does the line go? Well, at his eye socket it goes out, and then it comes down just slightly before it, below that imaginary vertical line, and then it goes up. So now I can turn my paper because my hand is designed to go out and down. And I will soften these lines up because there's not one straight line in anything made by nature. So I have to bring this in a little bit and bring this down here. Bring this out a little bit. So also, so now we have 2 ear lengths down will hit his jaw. All I have to do is measure his ear. 1, 2. And that's where his jaw is. Again, I'm turning my paper around so that I can see that. And then from this dot to his chin, it goes, no, actually this jaw is a little shorter. From his jaw to his chin, it goes out and in and out and in. It goes out. So I imagine a straight line between these 2 dots. I bring it out and then I bring it in. Then I turn my paper around and I connect these dots. Just slightly long. All right. The next thing that we're measuring from his base of his ear to his neck, end of his neck. And so the basic shape is a triangle for the ear, triangle for the head, and a triangle for the neck. And 4, if I bring in this shape here for the triangle, somewhere right around in here, we can measure it now. We go 1, 2, 3, 4.5. So somewhere more, a little bit more down here. So from this dot to this dot, I imagine a straight line, but there's not one straight line in anything made by nature, animals, plants, and people. I ask myself, This is called his pole up here. From here, this dot to this dot, it comes up, goes to the left outside of that imaginary line. Then it comes down below that imaginary straight line. And then it starts going up again. So I turn my paper around. And then from this dot from his jaw to his base of his chest, there I imagine a straight line. And I have to make sure that it bows just a slight bit. By making a dot instead of just drawing it, it helps you to create those subtle curved lines in objects. Now, here's another proportion to learn. From the end of the horse's nose to the base of his neck, 1, 2 is about how long a horse is. I'm going to erase this line here. All right. 1, 2, 3. And so from his base of his neck, let's redraw this again. It goes out on his chest, 1 ear length out and 1 ear length in. So out and then in, 1 ear length. So we measure again. This section is a rectangle. 1, 2. So we could draw this rectangle like this. Keeping it light. So from his base of his neck to from his body, again, top of his ear to the base of his neck is the same distance to the bottom end of his leg. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit, tweak this up a little bit here. If you draw a circle here, that helps you to see it too, how it goes out, down, mouth, and then the nostrils. Make a dot first before you do the circle so you can focus on that shape. I'm going to tweak this up a little bit. All right, now we want to go from his upper leg to his middle leg, and then so from this dot to this dot we do what's called center rods, and at each joint, if you make a circle, it'll help you when you go to putting the muscles in. And this rod and this his hoof. If you do a little basic triangle for his hoof. And now we can go around that, those muscles. At each joint, the muscle goes out and in, out and in. Same with the other side. Be careful not to make any straight lines. And his back leg is coming out from here, and this is his joint for his knee. Now we can do the skin out and in. Even though we know that the legs are both the same length, because this one is behind the body, it's foreshortened. This should be slightly shorter. Now, I can go so somewhere right around here. I want to go from his neck, his high wither, from this dot to his rear end. It goes, I imagine a straight line, and I make a dot below it, and then it goes above it. Again, by making beginning and end dots, it helps you to slow your eye and hand down. Helps you to take a second look at the positive and negative spaces. And their relationship to one another. I see that this wither is just a tad too soon. Again, from this dot, because this leg is behind his belly, from this dot right here to his back leg, I imagine a straight line, but then I bring it up, out, to the right of that straight line and to the left of that straight line. Then I turn it, because my muscles in my hand are designed to go out and down. Out and down. So an artist is always turning their paper around so that their hand is going out and down. Your muscles in your arm and hand are designed for best control to go out and down. And this needs to go up a little bit higher. So this is really big joint right here. So I'm looking at how is this leg in relationship to this leg. It's going behind this muscle. And I ended up erasing it, but remember his chest comes out one ear length, and goes in an ear length. Most of these are defined better with a soft edge of shading. When you put a harsh line, this is a little straight. Right, so his hamstring, his stifle is back here, and his let's see, it would be upper leg. Angle this more like this. Ooh, this needs to be more like that. These are called center rods, and I think I have it just a tad too far back. I'm going to erase it. This is all a little bit too far back. So right around here is a joint. So now I can go around my center rods and go out and down, out and in at each joint. I think I need to put his rear end just a tad up. This is a little too short a distance right there. So now I think we have it a little bit better. Speaking of horses, I am late to feeding my horse. I've got to go. I'm not following my own rules to putting it upside down And then you only see a little bit of his back legs. We're right in here. And then it comes up in front. So by making a dot first, it helps me to register, to focus. And when there's a subtle curve in something, you can master it better by creating a dot first. Here's the joint for running out of lead. This needs to be angled up more. Angled up more, and come up here a little bit more. Tweak this up a little bit. So now I am doing the tail, and the tail is right about here and comes down about here. So I ask myself, from this dot to this dot, I visualize a straight line, but then it bows in somewhere. Bows in a little bit. So now I'm turning my paper upside down, because my hand is designed to go out and down. Out and down. And when you want variety, go away with your stroke. Doing hair helps you to create a variety. And so now, after we get our proportions in and our basic shapes, now we go in and put some detail. A horse's mouth turns down. And I'm going to bring this in a little bit. Always put a dot first. Take your pencil away, focus on that dot. It's like a backward 6, a horse's nostril is, even though you can't really see it. And this is my horse Homer, who is a appendix quarter horse. He's half thoroughbred, and that means he's half thoroughbred and half quarter horse, which means that he has blood of 2 of the fastest running horses in the world. And whenever anybody says they have an appendix quarter horse, that automatically means they're half thoroughbred and half quarter horse. And a bay, he's a bay. And whenever anybody says a bay, that automatically means that he is black mane and black boot with reddish brown coat. I might have done a little bit more than 2 down from here. 1, 2. Yeah, I made his jaw just slightly too long. You can see that now. Nose. His chin needs to be further out than his nose. Needs to be cut in. All right. It's better to do just some selective hairs than a whole, make every stroke have quality. Try to have that. And just going around, make sure that I'm tweaking it before I start shading. And I see that I emphasize that a little too much. So now I can go back in and do his eye. Horse's eye is largest eye of any animal, larger than an elephant or a whale's. And a horse is known to be three things: strong, beautiful, strong, and powerful. Strong meaning muscular strength. Their reflexes are 5 times faster than a boxer, professional boxer. And don't like the way this looks here. Comes in a little bit and then comes out. And beautiful, meaning they have some of the most gentle curving lines of any animal. And powerful, meaning spiritually moving. And making him look mean. Looks like I got this just a tad longer than his ear. Just a tad. I should move it up just a little bit. Right about here more. So, oops. So I'll put a dot, take my pencil away, focus on that dot while I'm making just a circle. Don't try to do the shape of it. And as I'm doing the circle, I try to leave at least some white. Now I go around that circle. And you should not be seeing any white. Too big. Do it one more time. So I'm lacking the bone structure. Which really will be defined in the shading. You can tell a lot about a horse by their ears. If they're out in an outward direction, they're relaxed and content. If they're forward, they're curious or full of energy, like a racehorse. You bet on a horse and he's coming around and he's not in the lead, but his ears are pointy, you know he's got more energy. He still could win. I still don't like this. This is coming too high up here. So this comes down. Seem to have lost the Ticonderoga I was using. Okay, so this is a Ticonderoga, and what's so neat about these pencils is they are like a 2B and an HB. You just have to change your pressure. Alright, so we could start out with the main. If I make dots, I'm more apt to vary my strokes, and it's coming up over his body. Alright, my camera was coming undone. Again, I'm going away from my stroke, so it will give me a variety. But I still use those dots to help me to see it. And then his tail. I think it needs to go angled up a little bit more, like I originally had it. And so I see that this needs to be fixed. This is a little bit too low down. And this needs to come out. His elbow needs to come out. His upper leg. See, this defines his derriere. Might have an eraser underneath. So I'm going to try to tweak this a little bit. Coming down just a tad too much. Okay, so now before an artist start shading, they acknowledge where the light source is coming from. Placing an arrow at the upper left or right corner will help you to create that. I think I'm going to make mine at the upper left. So this will help remind me where all my shading needs to be. And I think that this needs to be erased here. Okay, so I can take my pencil. Oh, I did not show you how to do a value scale. Acknowledge your light source and then create a value scale. So by making 4 dots and then connecting them vertically and then connecting them horizontally, there are 5 ways that light affects an object. And so we wouldn't divide this right in half. We visualize the middle of it, then we move it over. Divide those in half. 1, 2. Scan your eye across there. 3, 4, 5. 1 is your darkest value. That's your cast shadow. That has a hard edge and it's as dark as it can be. 5 is your highlight. Highlight. And that's as light as you can make it. Highlight is light hitting an object at a 90-degree angle. It's the lightest but never stark white. We work our way from the outward in for a reason. Then we go, core shadow is lighter than the cast shadow. We drown out that white bleeding through. It enables us to better focus on that area. Now we go to 4, which is the half tone. Half tone means it's a half shade darker than the highlight. Drown out the white bleeding through with the stump blender. And now the middle one, the hardest one to create, is the reflected light. That's why we went from the outward in. I'm just going to neaten this up a little bit, because now we know the reflected light has to be darker than the halftone and lighter than the core shadow. So if we make one stroke at a time, building our layer up, then drowning out that white, help us to see those different values. So now I'm going to apply these values on my horse. So the first thing I'm doing is, here's my 1 value. This is where you're exercising that right brain hemisphere. That's going to help you in solving everyday problems. It's going to help you in being more flexible in thinking. Many other benefits of exercising that right brain hemisphere. Your right brain hemisphere is your imagination and your emotion side. Your left hemisphere is about words and logic. And I think I need to come out a little bit more on this. It is foreshortened a little bit. So after I make my 1 value, I turn it upside down and I apply empathy. I can also scribble my pencil on the surface of a paper to create a slant edge, which will enable me to do a wider and smoother, more consistent, no harsh strokes. So I'm pretending I'm applying empathy. I'm pretending that my pencil's on the surface of my horse's belly. Homer was named after the epic writer, great poet and epic writer, who was believed to be 400 years before his time. And my horse, of 10 years of having him, has proven that time after time. He even saved a boy's life. And I am writing a book about him, and hopefully it will get published. So I'm doing what's called cross-hatching. Now when I come up, I'm creating the core shadow. I want to be sensitive and change my pressure, going lighter and lighter. I'm pretending that I'm on the surface of my horse. Here's my 1 value. I'll do a little bit more of one. Then I'm changing my pressure for 2. Also, objects that are blocking one another, or like back here, whoops, this was my first and only horse. He has proven to be so loyal and patient. He has come to my aid multiple times, not only saving a boy's life, so I'm constantly pretending that my pencil is on the surface of his body. Because really what helps define a shape into a form are the subtle values, not by lines. You've experienced drawing a person, the upper lip, there's no line. It's defined with shading. But if you draw that upper line on someone's lip, it looks flat. It doesn't look right. That's why you have to define it with values, changing your pressure, applying empathy. Whoops. You need to make it more of a slant. I'm just taking my pencil and scribbling another piece of paper to create that slant. Probably need to sharpen it again. I should have left here 45 minutes ago. He is going to be neighing and having a fit. And so to really show his head, this is a bone structure here, and down in here, and underneath here, whoops. Now I have various drawing pencils, but I just require my students to have a Ticonderoga, which is a number 2 in HB. All you have to do is change your pressure. That's what an artist usually grabs, is a HB when they first sketch out. That means it's half hard and half soft lead. Pentimenta, Michelangelo said, keep it light until it's right. He told his assistants to help him paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. Pentimenta, keep it light until it's right. And that's too straight of a line. I won't even follow my own rules. Actually, their ears are really come to a little point, real fine point at the end. I need to sharpen this again. this frog underneath his hoof. And we forgot to do his derriere. This foot is solid, not at an angle. So underneath is kind of basic triangle too. So all a horse is triangles and a rectangle for the body. I'm going to try to Okay, so now I can take a stump blender. It's not really finished. These are stump blenders. And first thing I want to do is try to drown out all the white showing through. I think this is a little bit light. These lights. And again, it's still have to pretend that you're on the surface of the object. Not first I do circles to drown out that white. Then I want to try to distribute that graphite up to create all 5 values. Now, reflected light can be applied if you've gone over any areas, and I kind of did this in a rush. Can be lifted with a kneaded eraser. To really do this well would be to build your layers up going light and light and not have to rely on distributing it too much. But I'm trying to do it really quick and I keep getting erasers underneath. There's still another one. Okay. And you know, now that I see, I really wish I would have kept it like I had it before. It needs to come down a little bit. This needs to come up. It's a 1,200-pound animal. Okay, so now I can go in, try to lighten up these lines up here to create that highlight area. Homer's got a really high wither, and he's don't know how old he is. Should have looked at the way I had it, I guess. He was abandoned. A cowboy that raised him gave him to his son. His son gave him to his girlfriend, and then they broke up, and she knew nothing about horses. Anyway, Homer was abandoned in a pasture for 3 years, and I rescued him. This is too straight of a line right here. Now it's too dark. And now I see that the belly is a little too. So I can take a kneaded eraser. What's so great about these is that you can stretch it. You can make it in the area that you want it to create a highlight area, which will lift the graphite out but create a hard edge. Or you can take it and stretch it and stroke so that you lift up a little graphite at a time to create those highlights. And on the small areas, I can take my eraser and try to look at these highlights. Whoopsie. Okay, I wish I could pan it all the way out, but I can't. And I'm about to run out of juice. So, here's Homer. He's up there. He's probably 29 or 30 years old now. And I still have too much of a chest on him. I can see it. He's not fat. So now we can use our imagination where the reflected light might be. And there would be some lighter underneath here, which I can take this and go very, very lightly. Creativity takes a lot of time. I'm running out of time. Got to go feed Homer. Right. I did not blend this, so actually, I didn't show that his black boot goes out and in, whoops, and in. So this is blacker. Black boot, that means he's black down here. Yep, there we go. I see. Eraser. All right, I've got to stop. I've got to go feed a hungry horse. So, there you have it, Homer. Thank you, thank you. That was art with Mrs. Rogers. Goodbye.